Good evening, and welcome to the Imaging Alliance Salutes Photographers Who Give Back event. My name is Jerry Grossman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Imaging Alliance. I don't have to tell you that this has been an extraordinary year. Between an international pandemic, social justice demonstrations, unprecedented wildfires and hurricanes, and an unpredictable election, the world has experienced so much in such a short span of time. But think about how so many images are burned into the psyche of our nation. The images of healthcare workers and first responders struggling to keep up, cities across the country coming together while struggling to stay safe, and ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. We can all close our eyes and reimagine the defining moments of 2020, those that were captured by digital and video cameras and shot across the internet or into our living rooms. Those images are how we will remember and how we will pass these moments down to future generations. There are so many photographers, videographers, and vloggers out there that risk their lives and their well-beings to bring us images for the world to see. Those are the photographers that are giving back every day. And tonight, we take the time to salute some of those who have given their time and dedicate their lives to making a difference. Before I talk about the genesis of this incredible program, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the Imaging Alliance. The Imaging Alliance was formed 4 years ago as a consortium of members of the imaging industry who care deeply about imaging and the profound effect we can have on society. Our members are a veritable who's who of the imaging industry and include some of the most well-known manufacturers, distributors, developers, and publications in the world. And while we all may compete in some way, we also all understand that by working together, we can bring change and hopefully inspire people like you to use your talents to give back. We are also proud to be represented by over 35 local camera retailers across the country. With so much commerce happening online these days, it's important to remember that camera stores are out there lending their expertise and enthusiasm about photography every day. A trip to your local camera store gives you the opportunity to speak to experts one-on-one who will give you independent advice and might teach you something you probably didn't know. They're an integral part of our industry and proud members of the Imaging Alliance. At the Imaging Alliance, our mission has always been to create programs as an industry that foster goodwill, create enthusiasm around the hobby and profession of photography, and more recently, find ways to use the power of imaging to give back. For example, 11 years ago, we created our Portraits of Love program. The program was born out of a conversation we had with Sergeant Toby Nunn, who, having completed 4 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, related that his most important possession while facing the challenges of war were the pictures of his wife and children he always kept in his pocket. They were his lifeline during his darkest days. Our Portraits of Love program has teamed with the USO to match volunteer photographers to take portraits of military families on bases all over the country. Then, with the help of our member companies, we send prints of the family portraits to soldiers deployed all over the world, especially during the holidays. And most recently, we've expanded our program to take family portraits of first responders all over the country. Since the inception of the program, we have sent over 25,000 family portraits to soldiers and first responders across the country and all over the world to help keep them just a little closer to their families on the other side of the globe. In 2018, we were proud to launch a pilot program called Your Image, Your Voice. As an organization, we recognize that many of the issues surrounding teen bullying start with the posting of a negative image. And with this in mind, we worked with teachers and guidance counselors in the Jericho Middle School in New York to develop a pilot program for 12 and 13-year-olds that encouraged kids to take positive images using real cameras, asking them to take pictures that represented words such as unity, empathy, and perseverance. It was an incredible success, and we're now working to develop similar programs across the country, which brings us to today's event. The Imaging Alliance Salutes Photographers Who Give Back was created to salute and thank professional and student photographers who are using their incredible talents to further causes that are important to them and that are making a difference. So many of our member companies have supported this event because it is one more demonstration of the power of imaging to affect social change, help families in need, create opportunities, and increase awareness in places close to home, and in some cases so remote that only images allow their stories to be told. Tonight, we salute and honor the work of incredible photographers and teachers who are using their photographic equipment, their unique talents, and their hearts to make the world a better place. At this time, I'd like to introduce tonight's Master of Ceremonies, Tony Gale. Attend any industry event, and there's always one guy with a camera inviting you in for a smiling selfie. That would be Tony. Tony Gale is an award-winning portrait photographer shooting for a range of advertising, editorial, and corporate clients. Raised in Bellingham, Washington, he spent most of his time as a child exploring the woods behind his house. At 19, after visiting Bruce Lee's grave in Seattle and taking his first photo with a disposable camera, he bought his first camera, which he promptly broke. So he invested in his first SLR, and the rest is history. Tony has taught photography at FIT and at Parsons in New York City, and has traveled the country leading workshops for American photographic artists. Tony is a Manfrotto ambassador, a Sony Artisan of Imagery, an X-Rite Colorati, and the APA National President. He is also an avid triathlete, having visited all 50 states, I assume with a camera around his neck. Please welcome my friend, Tony Gale.
Thank you, Jerry. Live from New York, Imaging Alliance salutes photographers who give back. I'm thrilled to introduce our first honoree, Alicia Hansen. While Alicia is known by many in the industry for her work with NYC SALT, her career as a photojournalist is equally as impressive. Alicia has worked as a professional photographer for over 20 years, starting her career at one of the largest metropolitan newspapers in the country. She has worked for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Seattle Times, the Springfield State Journal-Register, the Roanoke Times and World News, the Athens Banner-Herald, the Guardian, and Fortune magazine. Her love of teaching began during her college years when she taught photography at the undergraduate and graduate levels while earning her master's degree in visual communication from Syracuse University's Newhouse School. Alicia has also worked for world-renowned National Geographic photographer Joe McNally as his first assistant and then as his producer. The result of their joint efforts was the first all-digital story at National Geographic, helping pioneer the way for digital photography to become a new standard for the magazine. She has served numerous editorial and corporate clients, from Sports Illustrated and People magazine to Amway and Herald Bank, and has been a part of the Eddie Adams workshop for over 8 years, first as a student and then as a producer. For the past 8.5 years, she has grown NYC SALT from a small photo class to a nonprofit organization with 100% college acceptance rate. It is for her work at NYC SALT and her contribution to the lives of so many aspiring photographers that she is being honored tonight. I'd like to present Alicia Hansen.
Hi, my name's Alicia Hansen. I'm the founder of a nonprofit called NYC SALT. We are a photography program that serves high school students in underserved areas of New York City. It's really such an honor, and I'm so proud to be here amongst such great company tonight to share the evening with you and hopefully to inspire you by something that I've done. I started SALT 13 years ago as a small class up in Washington Heights, and just by putting one foot in front of the other, built a program that serves upwards towards 150 students a year. Over the years, we've learned a lot of things, and we've grown the program to meet different needs in students. We have married our photography and video classes with college preparation and one-on-one mentoring. We do a lot of career exploration, and the idea with SALT and the way it's been designed is to show students that there is a whole creative economy, that there are so many different jobs in the creative industry that they could learn how to do. And so we give them the best tools, and we give them a studio and a state-of-the-art computer lab, all to learn in, and some of the best teachers in the city. All of our teachers are people that come from the photo industry that have had decades of experience, probably just like a lot of you in the audience tonight. I think our program, or I've been told by our alumni, and it's definitely what I felt too, is that our program has become a lot more than just a photo class. Because we work with students for so many years, our alumni come back and they teach and they mentor and they give back in all different ways. We're still in touch with a lot of our alumni, and we've just developed an emerging artists program this year that I'm excited to teach myself and to launch in a bigger way in 2021. And so I think I can say that we are dedicated towards bringing the arts to kids that don't have a lot of access, but also in identifying talent amongst young people and fostering that talent and seeing it grow. Some of the things that I'm most proud about this year are the work that our alumni is doing. We have a lot of alumni that are shooting for publications like the New York Times Magazine. Malik Sadebe is one of our superstars that has done an amazing job covering the protests and had an incredible piece in the New Yorker a couple weeks ago on the Kenosha protests. He was in the New York Times Magazine. Christian Rodriguez, another one of our alumni, has documented his dad's illness with COVID, and it was published in the opinion section of the New York Times it was early September. And even above and beyond that, I am so proud of the help that we've been able to give our students, most of whom are first generation college students, to get into incredibly prestigious schools that have helped advance their careers and their education. We have kids that are studying at Cornell and Syracuse and SCAD, a lot of kids at Parsons this year, many kids at NYU, and I feel like that was part of the program that came out of just spending time with kids and learning that they're not getting all the help that they need in their high schools, and I'm proud that we can help support that. So we have a video that shares a little bit more about the program that is going to launch in a second. So I'd invite you to look at it and think of some questions. If there's anything you'd like to ask me, I'm happy to answer them in our Q&A time later on this evening. Thank you so much.
Photography teaches you how to see life, how to see people, how to see yourself. You know, you hold up your camera, you look through the lens, and you just start seeing differently.
I cannot be so close-minded and narrow about what I like to see and what appeals to me, because there's so many different aspects of the world that there's beauty within everything.
I like to add a little bit of surrealism. Even though it might be unnatural, it's just nice to imagine what things would look like if, something was just a little bit off. Something interesting, different than just the normal everyday New York City that you see.
I think it's taught me a lot to slow down. You kind of just notice in all of your photos, people are walking and running through, which is kind of cool. And it kind of makes you want to think, I can stop those moments.
I definitely notice people more than I have before, because, I don't know, I used to walk with my head down a lot, so now I notice expressions more. You don't have to have an excuse to go up to someone. You could just be like, hey, can I take a picture of you? So it just taught me, just to be more confident in myself.
I like the aspect of photos when you have to stare at them and you have to really think about them.
I kind of want to make people feel like, oh wow, this doesn't feel real. Is it actually real? And just bring something to make them feel curious, to make them feel like they don't know everything. It's nice to see something crazy happen every once in a while.
I guess what's so appealing about it is that no one else has touched it. It's kind of like the forbidden fruit or like the untouched treasure. Like no one's taken this photo or this type of photo. Something about like being original is appealing because it kind of makes you feel like you have purpose or you are doing something that's worth having purpose, you know?
Thank you, Alicia. I'm sure all your students are as proud of you as we are. Our next honoree is legendary photographer James Balog, the founder and president of Earth Vision Institute and Extreme Ice Survey. For almost 40 years, James Balog has broken new conceptual and artistic ground on one of the most important issues of our era, human modification of nature. An avid mountaineer with a graduate degree in geography and geomorphology, James is equally at home on a Himalayan peak or whitewater river, the African savanna, or polar ice caps. James has become a global spokesman on the subject of climate change and human impact on the environment. He founded the Extreme Ice Survey, EIS, the most wide-ranging, ground-based photographic study of glaciers ever conducted. Balog and the EIS team were featured in the 2012 internationally acclaimed award-winning documentary Chasing Iceland, which won an Emmy Award in 2014 and has been screened at the White House, the US Congress, the UK House of Commons, and the United Nations. His new film, The Human Element, is an innovative and visually stunning look at how humanity interacts with earth, air, fire, and water. The film has its world premiere at the San Francisco Film Festival in April 2018. James has been honored with many awards, including the Royal Photographic Society Hood Medal, the Heinz Award, the Duke University Leaf Award, the Sam Rose 58 and Julie Walters Prize for Global Environmental Activism at Dickinson College, among numerous others. His work is in dozens of public and private art collections, including the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston, the Corcoran Gallery, the Peabody Essex Museum, the Denver Art Museum, and the Gilman Paper Company. We are proud to honor and introduce our next speaker, James Balog.
Good evening, Imaging Alliance. I so wish I could be there with you tonight, but due to circumstances beyond my control.
Would you tell me if it wasn't true?
But I wanted to thank you for the honor of this lovely award. You know, I've been an environmental photographer for basically my whole career. Like all of us, you know, you do a lot of other things for the sake of getting paid, but in my heart and in my mind, I've always been connected primarily to what I could do by way of expressing and interpreting and documenting the natural environment. Why do I care about that? Well, I care about it in part because I've been connected with nature ever since I was a little boy, climbing trees and camping and canoeing and all those sorts of things. But as an adult, I realize how vitally important it is that we use this magnificent tool called a camera in a magnificent medium called photography to express what's going on in the world. A lot of people are pretty oblivious to what's happening out there, and we as photographers sort of act as the antennas of civilization. We're out there sniffing around with our antennas up, looking for things, trying to interpret things, trying to find the picture that makes a story come alive, a situation come alive, a symbolic image that transcends the immediate moment and makes people go, aha, yeah, now I get it. So that's our job, and that's the thing that we can so vitally add to the public conversation. We're in a period of tremendous environmental change right now because of the human impact on the environment. Almost 8 billion of us doing what we need to do to live and survive. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, the plants and animals, it's all changing. Everybody in this room tonight would have enough subjects to photograph for the rest of their lives. We have this fantastic medium that can concentrate a broad spectrum of what's going on in the world into a single picture or a couple of pictures, and to help an audience go, aha, now I get it, now I see it, I didn't understand it before. I see photography continuing to be an incredibly powerful medium for revealing what's happening with environmental change, what's happening with human issues and human changes, because the two things fit together. So everything we do counts if we use our opportunity and our medium correctly. So on behalf of my team, I'd like to say thank you for the honor of this award tonight. We can always use another pat on the back, and this is one of them. So thank you.
Chris Rainier has been respected for his documentation of endangered cultures and traditional languages around the globe. In the early 80s, Chris was Ansel Adams' last photographic assistant. During his tenure with the renowned photographer, he worked with Mr. Adams to amplify the use of art photography as a social tool, helping to preserve threatened wilderness areas and national parks. He went on to collaborate with UNESCO and IUCN on a global project using photography to preserve endangered wilderness areas around the globe. During his continued tenure with the National Geographic Society, he has been the co-founder and co-director of both the Enduring Voices Language Project and director of the All Roads Photography Program, designed to support Indigenous groups with modern technology, desiring to document their traditional culture and create sustainable solutions to preserve the planet in the 21st century. In addition, as a National Geographic Fellow, he was an editor for National Geographic Traveler focused on documentation of traditional culture. Chris Rainier's photography and books have been shown widely and collected by museums around the world, including the Australian Museum in Sydney, the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, and the International Center of Photography in New York, among others. He has photographed global conflict, culture, famine, and war in places such as Somalia, Bosnia, Sarajevo, Sudan, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Cambodia, and Iraq for Time magazine and for NPR radio, and completed photographic projects for the United Nations, UNESCO, Amnesty International, Conservation International, the Smithsonian Institution, Time magazine, the New York Times, Life magazine, and the National Geographic Society. We're proud to honor Chris Rainier for his incredible photographic journeys tonight.
Thank you, Tony, for the kind introduction. It is a great honor for me to be here tonight. I also wanted to thank the Imaging Alliance Group, as well as the photo industry and all the remarkable photographers out there working to use their photography as a social tool. And indeed, I also want to thank the audience for taking the time this evening to check in and be a part of this remarkable event. Tonight, I want to talk about where photography, conservation, and traditional culture all intersect. So let me, if you will, take you on a journey into this world that I am so passionate about. Imagine, if you will, there is a tsunami raging across the planet, and it has been raging for the past 200 years. It is a tsunami of the modern world. This wave of destruction is taking with it traditional cultures, cultural identity, and unique languages. Every 2 weeks, a traditional elder passes away and takes with them complex understandings of ecosystems, biodiversity, climate change, and deep understandings of traditional medicines. The loss of that elder is like burning down a library every fortnight, leaving behind ashes of rich human knowledge, empirical wisdom that has its origins that date back 10,000 generations. But what makes this even worse is that 80% of the world's 6,000 languages are oral, passed on from generation to generation, father to son, mother to daughter, stories told around the fireplace. And if a language is oral and an elder dies, it disappears. These are not just mythical fairy tales, costume dances with feathers and masks, but peoples with deep, complex understandings of the earth and ecosystems and of long-term sustainability of how to survive on this planet. So when that elder dies, the whole planet loses a rich encyclopedia of traditional science that can help us today solve the complex issues of climate mitigation and our survival on this planet beyond this century. It is these cultures living on the edge, hidden under the forest canopy and on the outer edge of modernity, that hold many of the keys to our survival and the preservation of land, water, mountains, and savannas. Who better to know and understand their environments, their home, than the traditional communities who live amongst the wilderness? In fact, 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity is on the land lived on by indigenous people. Science has now proven that indigenous people are the best caretakers of the land. If given the chance, biodiversity survives and flourish where indigenous communities remain on their land. Therefore, protecting traditional cultures is at the heart of conservation. For example, if just 1 square mile of traditional community forest can be protected from being cut down, we can offset that annual carbon footprint of 35,000 people or 30,000 cars. Just imagine. It is clear we are under a massive global change with our climate. It is through the brilliant images of James Balog, who of course is here tonight, that the overwhelming evidence is in. We must stop destroying the planet's forests, wilderness, and biodiversity. The clear path towards this is to help protect the protectors of the planet. So what does this have to do with photography? Well, that story begins in the early 1980s when I had the great honor to work for the landscape photographer and brilliant conservationist Ansel Adams as his last photographic assistant. What I learned from him was the power of photography as a social tool, a catalyst of change and good. It can shine a beam of light and hope on the world's injustices. Ansel's photography helped save many of the national parks and wilderness areas in the 20th century. Since the 1980s, for the past 35 years, I have tried to follow that lead, working to document cultures threatened by economic duress, climate change, and land degradation. Cultures that are on the edge of assimilation or in danger of fading away from the weight of modernity. I know at the very least photography can serve as a reminder of what has been lost and as an inspiration to future generations to once again dance the dance of the elders, to wear the regalia of their ancestors, to don the mask of their ancients, or to inscribe their body with a sacred tattoo as their distant relatives once did. Photography can also serve to remind us of the beauty of the natural landscapes around us and to give us new meaning and clarity. But throughout my career, documenting traditional cultures for National Geographic, Time magazine, and the United Nations, I knew there was more that I could be doing. So in 2015, I attended the Paris Climate Accord and listened to the great leaders, religious figures, as well as indigenous elders speak of the urgency to come together and begin to turn the tide on climate change. I had the privilege of taking to the conference elders from Bhutan, Asia, South America, and North America to speak. And indeed, they spoke of the need to weave into the fabric of modern science the knowledge of traditional cultures. It is only by joining modern science with ancient knowledge that we can begin to create long-term solutions. So in 2015, I and a group of like-minded individuals decided to form a foundation that works globally to empower indigenous communities to help save their land and be a part of the solution for the future. Now, some 5 years later, Cultural Sanctuaries Foundation works around the planet in such places as Bhutan, Kenya, Mexico, Brazil, and Mongolia. We create community centers that become the hub within that community to help preserve land, traditional knowledge, and traditional language. We work closely with local and global conservation groups to help save highly endangered forests, savannas, and oceans. And indeed, these forests and biodiversity areas are the lungs of our planet, are the future of our survival. Photography plays a crucial role in the communities. We create technology classrooms in every community center where photography and video workshops take place, training the youth to document their language, their knowledge of the forest, and to learn to tell the stories of their elders who know how to look after the land. Cameras, video cameras, computers, and all the various technology parts are crucial to the success of the Cultural Sanctuaries Foundation. We, right now as we speak, are working on building community centers in Western Mongolia with the eagle hunters, in Kenya with the Maasai who live in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro, and the Javari deep in the western edge of the Brazilian Amazon jungle. Margaret Mead, the great social anthropologist, once said about culture, her greatest fear, having been born into a polychromatic world, was that her grandchildren, indeed all of our children, would grow up in a monochromatic world and never know that there had ever been anything different. We live at a crucial time of survival for our planet. I am passionate about the work that we do at the Cultural Sanctuaries Foundation and believe we can make a difference. I think we can all make a difference. I hope you can come join us, work with us, get involved, and be a part of the change to the survival of our planet beyond the 21st century. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for this great honor and this award. I share this award with so many other committed photographers that I am proud to be among. Please be safe and good night.
What is creativity to me?
It's how I speak, it's how I communicate.
Creativity is necessary. For me, it's therapeutic.
Camera in my hand, it's when I feel most comfortable. When I'm out exploring, out shooting, that's when I feel most at peace.
And when you find other people that share that vision, that's when you find your family.
Congratulations, Chris, on this well-deserved award. At this time, I'd like to present the Anthony Rotolo Photojournalism Award. But first, let me talk a little bit about Anthony. Anthony Rotolo was an esteemed member of our board who passed away suddenly in June of 2015. Those of us who knew him, worked with him, or just hung out with him knew him as a kind, creative, gentle soul who had incredible passion for fun, his family, and of course, photography. As publisher of both Popular Photography and American Photo magazines, Anthony was a driving force in our industry. He recognized photography not only as an art, but as an opportunity to tell a story that the world needs to hear or that a family just wants to share. And while publishing was his job, he also had a vital place in his heart for inspiring young photographers to learn their craft, take some risks, and make their way out into the world with a camera hanging over their shoulder. With his memory still fresh in our hearts, we created the Anthony M. Rotolo Photojournalism Award to present to a photographer each year who best represented Anthony's vision and passion. And this year, our award goes to Mike Corrado. To know Mike Corrado is to love him. I've known and loved Mike personally for over 25 years. Mike has worked in many capacities for Nikon over the years, and professional photographers across the country have depended on Mike for his all-encompassing knowledge of Nikon products and photographic techniques. But what has always impressed me about Mike is his enduring passion for whatever he puts his mind to. From photographing some of rock's most intense drummers, to capturing sports icons, to interviewing professional photographers to help them share their passions with their varied audiences. Put a camera around Mike's neck, and you'll always see the unexpected. But nowhere is that passion put on greater display than the volunteer work he does at the Ronald McDonald House, creating beautiful and enduring portraits of children going through unthinkable bouts with cancer and other illnesses. Mike has given his time and energy to the Ronald McDonald House for years, and only Mike can continue to bring smiles to the faces of these children with his warm embraces and his ability to connect with each and every one of them and their families. He's become part of so many of the kids' families and has provided them comfort with his portraits of the children that show their strength and resolve to fight their challenges. He's truly the shining light that brings smiles to these children with every visit. It is my esteemed honor to present the Anthony M. Rotolo Photojournalism Award to my friend, Mike Corrado.
Hello, and everybody. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Michael Corrado, and I can't thank the Imaging Alliance enough for putting this event together tonight and have you all come and join us. And I certainly want to thank the Rotolo family for this Anthony Rotolo Photojournalism Award. It is such a great honor, and even more special to me because I knew Anthony very well. We used to have great conversations about photography and music back in his days working at the magazines, and so it makes it a little extra special for me. I want to talk to you over the next 10 minutes about things I've learned in my journey in photographing sick children, including the Ronald McDonald House, the Sunrise Summer Camp, and now through a new foundation called the Zofia Alexandria Foundation. But I found that it has become my mission in life to serve with photos and to do it in this environment. And I found that not only does an image have the power to heal, it's also got the power to heal in death. So not just in life, not just to make somebody smile, but it may help a grieving parent. So I want to talk to you about that power of images and how they help heal in both life and death. Now, the number one question I get about what I've done over the last decade is, how do you do it? I could never do this. You're so special. You're giving them such a gift. I can tell you right now, the gift is mine, that I'm allowed into the situations that I'm allowed into, that I've been adopted by over a dozen families now and been immersed in their lives. And we'll talk about that along the way. But the key is that I understood early on that the mission wasn't about me. It was about them. And it all actually started through a program called Nikon Flash, Families Lending Assistance, Support, and Help, as part of our corporate social responsibility to engage within the community. And with Project Flash, I was asked to go to the Ronald McDonald House one day and take pictures. In the spring and in the fall, we had scheduled portrait shoots for the holidays where we would give them prints and we would give them a jump drive of the extra images, and they were all theirs, just to try to make their day. That was the intent. Make them laugh and smile during the shoots, and to offer them the pictures that they could have to do whatever they wanted with, some prints and images on a drive. And I wanted to jump into this with all of the excitement and energy I had, but I didn't know what I was getting into. And I think my first strategy was to go in there and not want to know anything about the children, not want to know anything about the families, what they were going through, the sickness, the illness, the prognosis. But I quickly realized you need to know everything. We'll talk about that throughout the next 10 minutes or so. And I also wanted to state that I've gone to so many people for advice on what I can and can't do during my career, not just this, but for this in particular. And the one thing that I want to mention, if you take away anything from here, is that this tool, this device, to quote John H. White, amazing Pulitzer Prize winning photographer, journalist out of Chicago, my friend, I call him my brother. He said on an interview with me recently, every time you have a camera in front of somebody, you can offer them somebodiness. You can tell their story. Somebodiness. Somebody-ness. You can dignify them and tell their story. You can offer them somebodiness. And I've taken that with me every day, every time I go in to shoot, that it is my responsibility to make them look beautiful, make them look happy, photograph them in good and challenging times where they're not so happy, do everything I possibly can, and communicate with the families. So my abrupt way of going in and not wanting to learn anything quickly turned into, I have to know everything. I need to know the child's name, their birth date, their sickness, their prognosis, when are they going for surgery, what are their medications, what are the medications that hurt them, what are the medications that can help them, and when I say hurt them, in a way of will knock them out so we don't know how long we have to shoot. Learn anything and everything I could to understand all the sensitivities of being in that environment, and to use my camera to give them somebodiness. So in this journey, I've learned so much. I have been educated. I have been gifted with the opportunity to tell these stories. It's not a gift that everybody gets, and I promise you, if you're concerned that you couldn't do something like this, I know you can. But you do have to be present, and you do have to immerse yourself in their world, and you have to be a little bit more than just a photographer. You have to be their friend. You have to be that person that can sit down and talk with not only the kids, but the parents, to play with them, to learn from them, to know what you can and can't do, and realize when you can and can't pick up the camera. Deanne Fitzmaurice, a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, first bit of advice she gave me when I asked her, how do you do this? She said, play with them, talk with them. On the scheduled shoots, when you got 14 families lined up, it may not be an easy thing to do, but the day I decided to get immersed into their lives and let myself go, I realized right there, Deanne's advice was the smartest. Don't even bring a camera in sometimes, just talk to them. I talked to Amy Vitale about dignity, the word dignity, and how that would play into every photograph I made. Dignify them, even in the challenging times. Because I asked Amy, I said, when do I learn or when do I know to put the camera down while I'm shooting? Dignity was the word. And these are the things I'd focused on. I realized at that point, my world changed, my purpose changed. When I started to understand more about what I could bring to their presence. One day I got a call from her mom, Brenda, about her daughter, Bailey. She was going through a brain surgery. She is 19 years old. She has an affliction, a disease called Chiari, a brain malformation, and she had brain surgery and had her head shaved, and someone in public innocently called her sir while she was recovering. Said, give me time to get over there, give me 5 minutes, and I'm going to prove to her that her beauty is not about her hair. It's about her eyes and her presence. And we did. I went in, knew exactly where to light her, have her look in a certain direction. I touched up all the blemishes. I presented the picture to her and proved to her that the beauty was within her, not her hair. And that just continued to grow. And that same day, I met a mom, Teresa, her son, Dylan, 4 years old with neuroblastoma cancer. Had just gone through 2 stem cell transplants and missed one of our organized shoots. Again, I realized I got to be there on their time, not mine. I needed to be present for them when they needed it. And I said, of course, I'll do that. And we scheduled a shoot to photograph Dylan. And during that time, she said, would you record and document his life for me? I said, you want me to photograph his life? She says, yeah. And I said, why? I was confused. Again, uncharted territory, learning how to deal with this all. Becoming immersed, but it's still a challenge. And I said to her, why? And she said, because I want him when he's an adult and a survivor to see what he went through when he was a child. Best answer you could have ever given me, because that was a launch pad for me. That changed the world for me. That made me realize I have a lot that I need to give to these people. Because we talk about medication and the healthcare system and how it worked, and how Teresa was trying to get medication for Dylan and had to reapply every time they left the hospital. I mean, it's insane, but you learn more. The more you learn, the more you can handle. I had to go in and play with Dylan, as Deanne suggested. He didn't want me to touch his toys. I couldn't block the TV. He would put me in jail, until we became so close that the camera just kept coming up and he didn't even see it. And I was able to dignify him with photos in the good times and the bad, in the hospitals and the house. So turn to friends, get advice. Every one of us can do this, but look for every and any way to be present. Create fun, laughs, silliness in the moments when they're truly challenged. That is my job. I could cry, I will cry. I'm Italian, I will cry, but I am there to serve, and I am there to be a goofball, be it a 5-minute shoot with somebody, or maybe it's a scheduled shoot where we do something a little more intense, like bring a makeup artist in for the young ladies so we can photograph them and make them feel so fine, so beautiful, and coordinate better shoots, bigger shoots. And it just keeps growing. You learn that it keeps growing. You don't know what's going to happen the next day, but an idea is going to come, you pitch it, and maybe you can get it done. But your job is to make them happy and smile. Change their day one moment at a time, one photograph at a time. You learn how this becomes your mission to create awareness outside of the house, trying to create awareness for donations and the people that you're serving, the house that you're serving, the camp that you're serving or the foundation that's a part of your world now. It just becomes your life. And to be present, grow, learn. Sometimes it's just bringing spirituality and asking for prayer socially when someone goes into a big surgery. Having those pictures serve them so people can see them. And that beautiful thing that people will come back and say to you that I've learned about this child through your photos. I don't even know them, but I feel like I know them through the photos. Again, my gift. Everybody will tell you that you're giving somebody a gift. It is my gift. They are balancing my life. They are giving me perspective, and they do it daily. So be present. I'm Uncle Mike some days. I'm Mr. Mike. Lori Swihart, 4 sick children coming through the house. The Southerners, they call me Mr. Mike. All the beautiful moms that have let me in. Amber with her daughter Callie, or Jillian with her family. And to have that honor, you must respect it and treat it with so much care, like it's your own family. And when people like Matt Campo of the Ronald McDonald House have trusted me enough to come in and do my thing, the day we had a conversation and he said, hey, you can be the house photographer here. You're the house photographer at Jones Beach. Why can't you be the house photographer here? I said, that's one of the best honors I could ever have. But you will want to laugh, you will want to cry, you will want to come up with ideas to just do things differently. You'll be there at every event. If it's an art event, if it's a fun day that they're creating where superheroes will come in, you be there and you be present, and you will learn that that power to heal, that image's power to heal in life is just so important, and it's unlimited what your pictures can do. But as the journey continues, you learn other things that you didn't expect. You learn how your pictures are going to heal in death. You understand that it is inevitable, and for over 10 years, I didn't have to deal with that. But just last November, we lost Zofia Alexandria, Zoe, a 6-year-old with pienoblastoma brain cancer. She was a fighter, she was a survivor. Her mom, Safrana, her grandmother, Ermine, we all became so close. You become a part of the family. I think I've been, again, adopted by about 12 families at this house. And the list keeps growing because Lori, the house mother, she'll share your name with everybody, and you want to jump in and help everybody, and you make it work. Again, my gift. Just recently, a few months ago, we lost another little girl, Lily, 11 years old. She had Chiari. Her tiny little body couldn't handle it anymore. And it's very challenging emotionally. Why not? You become a part of their lives. They're your family. And whether it was pienoblastoma that took Zoe or Chiari that took Lily, the mission moved on, and the journey moves on with my images now having to serve in death for grieving parents, grieving siblings, grieving friends and extended families. The network of families we created at the house. And I wish I could mention them all. But those mothers that let me into their kids' lives, those dads that trusted me making these pictures, is an honor and a gift to me. So on behalf of Zoe and Lily, who served us on earth as our educators through their challenges and sicknesses, while I serve them with photos, we all have that opportunity. They now serve us as angels in heaven, looking down on us, teaching us in a whole new different way. And I will continue to serve here on earth. Because when a mom, like Jillian, Lily's mom, wrote to me days after her daughter died and said, I can't live with the fact that I keep hearing the passing of my daughter. But your photos are my only sense of comfort right now. And now I realize what my purpose is. And Safrana, Zoe's mom, since November, has started a website and a foundation called the Zofia Alexandria Foundation. She has come up with nail polish lines to bring money in for the charity. She's written a book, Miracles Can Happen. And when she reached out for pictures for the memorial service in the church, a gallery of images, if you will, and an image of her daughter without a feeding tube, a rare occurrence. And it ends up on the cover of a book. There's not another cover that'll mean more to me. There's not another photograph that will teach me about my life perspective and how to give back. I thank you all for this amazing award and the recognition. It's not about the award, it's about the awareness. And if this award brings awareness through my dedicating it to Zoe and Lily, that is what I would love to do. Zoe, Lily, their families, their friends, this award is for you. And every parent along the way that I met. Amber, Lori, Charles, Nathan, Jillian, Brenda, and so many more. I thank you for letting me into your lives, and let this award serve as an honor for you. Thank you.
Every creative has it. Potential.
Do you know what it is? It's that blank canvas inside of you. It's every creative possibility in your future.
It's where your story begins.
It's not always easy to find, but you will find it if you dig deep.
It took me years to discover mine. It took less than a second to recognize it.
Feel it and grab it. And hold it tight.
My natural passion to tell stories became my reality.
Now find yours. It's there, right in front of you.
Setbacks?
There will be plenty.
Learn from them.
Leave them behind and get closer to your creative destiny.
Realize the hidden hopes and dreams.
There is a place for them in this world.
So share them with all of us.
Don't leave your canvas blank.
Be true to yourself.
Find your true potential.
It's time.
Ignite your passion.
Thank you, Mike. And now I'd like to welcome live Mike, Alicia, James, and Chris to our Q&A panel. If those of you watching at home have questions, please put them in the hop-in chat and we will try and get to them. Welcome all.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The very first question we have is for James Balog. James, do you ever have challenges with others taking the science seriously because you capture it from an artistic perspective? Or do you find that others are more engaged and willing to listen to the scientific topics because the images draw them in?
You know, I really didn't do this to be a scientist or to illuminate science per se. I did it as a personal artistic expression of the world that I see changing around me. And what I've found over and over and over again is that the visual expression of these things really touches people and makes them able and willing to engage and understand. It's been incredibly gratifying. Honestly, when I started the Extreme Ice Survey in 2007, I guess it was, I had no idea if anybody would care about any of these pictures or not. I really didn't know. And so it's great that it's become an important part of the accepted visual evidence for climate change. Although I will say that we had somebody standing outside a theater in Los Angeles after we showed Chasing Ice, and they overheard somebody walk out commenting to his wife or girlfriend how do you think they did those special effects with those glaciers for free? So it's like, come on. I just showed you the very obvious visual evidence, and you think it's special effect because we live in La La Land? So whatever. But I think generally speaking, it's been pretty well accepted.
All right. Thank you. The next question is for Chris. Chris, how do you ensure that the cultural moments and heritage that you capture are extended to cultural understanding and conservation rather than simply appreciated just because it's different or other?
Thank you, Tony. That's a good question, and that's a complex answer. But, you know, I think the power of photography, and especially specifically cultural photography, is a moment in time. I think many of us know of Edward Curtis and his remarkable images at the beginning of the 20th century. They are a moment to look at, to inspire them, to use as a point of reference for revitalizing their traditional costumes, regalia, dances, the Haida Indian of the British Columbia coast, reference Edward Curtis images to once again do the traditional painting of their boats. So I think photography, as it relates to documentation of indigenous cultures, can serve multiple purposes. For me, what I'm trying to do is kind of take a documentation of cultures potentially from our past living in the present for future generations, almost like postcards to the future, to ensure that we don't forget about these cultures and that we are aware that there is a multitude of different ways of being on the planet. I think when we live in a Western society, specifically in a North American society, we tend to think in a very ethnocentric way, that we're the center of the universe and all of those other cultures are irrelevant. But there are multiple ways to look at the world, and I think what I am always reminded when I have the great fortune to go out to these traditional cultures is they see the world in a very different way. And they see the world in a way that may be the gateway to the opportunity for us to solve many of the complex issues that we're facing in the 21st century. So photography has the power through the documentation to remind us of this.
Thank you. For all of you, so if you could all answer it one at a time. Everyone here has set the bar so high, and that's very noble and inspiring. For the average creative out there who is looking to give a little back for the greater good, but isn't as established or perhaps doesn't yet have the leeway to dedicate at this level, what are some ways that they too can contribute? Alicia, oh, go ahead.
No, you go, Mike.
I think first remember that the bar is set high with us because we've been doing this for many years. We were down when the bar was set so high, so it was a new experience for us. And so just remember, none of this happens overnight. I think that's important to embrace, because you will grow, you will learn. I failed through this whole process, and I learned how to succeed at trying to do things a little bit better, even when I was confronted with things that I just didn't expect. But you get involved. I mentioned it before in my talk, is be present, ask questions, understand things, respect the environment that you're in, respect and understand what everyone is going through that's right in front of your camera. And just volunteer. I know at the Ron McDonald House or the Sunrise Day Camp, or now with the Sophia Alexandria Foundation, volunteer, offer your help, offer to serve, offer to do something. And I think it just grows into something all of a sudden, several years later. For me, it's about 10 years later, maybe 11 years later. It's something that I never expected, but I'm so blessed to have.
Wonderful, thank you. Alicia?
I think it's really about being curious and being a lifelong learner. And those are some of the things that we teach our students. We teach them to be curious. We use photography as a tool to help build confidence. We use the camera to explore the world. And I think that I've always believed that you can do anything that you set your mind to, and you should never take no or someone else raining on your parade to hold you back. And if you have a great idea, then do it. See how it comes out. I've always been the kind of learner that I do something before I really fully know exactly what it is that I'm doing. And in the process of doing that, I discover a whole lot. And that's how my photography practice has always worked. And I think that's how we teach, is that we put cameras in the hands of kids, and we have them document their world and tell their story.
All right. James, same question.
Yeah, that was a great answer, Alicia and Mike. I would add that in addition to being intensely curious and being open, every good photographer I've ever known has been very respectful of all the human beings around them. And you have to know how to be open and courteous and engaged with anybody. You know, I may intensely dislike certain persons in the political sphere right now, for example, but I guarantee I could go in there and drink a beer with them if I had to. So this camera and this photographic process helps you learn, whether you're working at a professional level or a recreational level. It helps you learn how to be open and engaged and be with people and see people and be with landscapes as well. I think the other big thing is that people, whether they're looking at the art that somebody wrote or somebody sculpted or somebody put into a film or somebody put into a book or an exhibition, people don't realize how many mistakes there are. And they may not be mistakes, but they may just be failed experiments, let's say. And you know, you see a beautiful beautiful show of my work or Chris's work, and you see all these, you know, perfect, finished, finalized pictures, and man, there's a lot of dead dogs laying on the cutting room floor. You know, sorry, that was a little too graphic, but no, there's you just have to recognize there's a lot of mistakes. I'm finishing right now writing the texts. I've got about 30,000 words of text that are on the computer for a huge retrospective book I'm doing, and there's 10 chapters. And I have kept all the drafts from all of those essays, for all of those chapters. And I went through them yesterday, and I was stunned to see that probably every single has 15 to 20 different drafts. And I'm only just now, after about the 20th draft or so, getting to the end of where I feel like the words are finally, you know, chiseled and whittled and sanded and smoothed to where they need to be. Maybe that's just because I'm a photographer, not a fast writer, but in any case, you get the point. You have to be willing to make the mistakes and do the experiments and keep reaching for perfection, even if you'll never get there.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you, Tony. I want to answer in two different ways from the incredible experience and honor that I had working for Ansel Adams. One of the things that he said way back in the early 1980s when I was a young pup as his photographic assistant, he says, you know, you need to put out short-term gains for long-term goals. I think we live in an instant gratification world. So in other words, if as a student or someone who's passionate about using their photography as a social tool, just have your vision on the horizon. This may take a couple of years till you get to the point where you have a body of work that the United Nations may look at, or your local nonprofit organization. One of the other things that I learned working with Ansel Adams, I was tasked with proofing all of his 60,000 negatives. So that took 5 years of being in the darkroom. And I decided to start with his very first negative and evolve all the way to the very last roll of film he shot just weeks before he passed away. And what I saw was an immense amount of failures, an immense amount of experiments. And so back in the non-digital days, I always used to say, you have to run several 100 miles of film through your camera. Well, think of it in a digital world. It's just get out, shoot, 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 And eventually you begin to find your own voice, your own way of expressing things.
Great. Thank you. Alicia, has the NYC SALT program changed, and how have you had to adapt with the uncertainty with kids in school right now with COVID and all that fun stuff?
Like every other educational program probably in the world right now, we are virtual. And that has taken a bit of adapting to. It's obviously not what we would prefer in teaching photography, but it's worked. I'm really proud of my team of teachers who, that first week of March when New York was shutting down, we went from 1 week in person and the very next week we're all up on Zoom and figuring it out and learning as we went because there wasn't another option. And I think beyond just teaching photography, it was a lifeline for a lot of the kids because they had each other. We spend a lot of time over the years building community. So the kids have really strong friendships and they have really strong relationships with the teachers. So that weekly presence, and that we also had our teachers do one-on-ones with all the students each week. And that I think helped them through. It helped us through the harder months of when all this began. And now we've just started our fall semester, or we've started our school year because our program runs from September to June. And we're teaching our first year students how to use a digital camera for the first time through Zoom. And it's working because it has to. A lot of the programs that students in public high schools in New York City, a lot of their extracurricular activities have been canceled. And so our program for most all of our kids is the only extracurricular thing that they're doing. And I think that's really important. It's important to not only give them just an activity, but a place to come every week that they can explore and have a voice and tell a story about whatever it is that they're going through or they're feeling. And we have a show of all the work that our students did on the theme of isolation going up in New York City next week on Halloween. It'll be in a New York City park on 22nd and 10th Avenue. And the pictures that the students did and their poetry and words behind the pictures will wrap around the park. So if anybody's in New York and wants to walk by, you should, because the work is really incredible and their stories are really significant.
I'll have to check that out. Mike, how would you recommend someone approach a hospital or other organization to photograph the types of sensitive situations that you have been doing?
One, it's respecting the fact that they may say no, that you can't come in, or talking with somebody that has the power to let you in and make you understand what you can and can't point the camera at. I've shot in the hospital several times. You don't photograph the hardware. You don't photograph any of the graphs. You don't photograph anything that has to do with what may be the status or details of the child hooked up to it.
We're losing your mic a little.
All right, let me try something.
Losing your mic. So I'm going to, while he's looking at that, James, do you think people can still make an impact documenting environmental change and tell important environmental stories in their backyards and local area if they may not be able to travel? Can it still make a difference?
Absolutely, positively, yes. The world is eroding underneath our feet right now. Chris and I have seen it in different ways, but the more you become aware of, on my side of the fence, the physical changes that are going on, you become aware of what science understands and knows. It's not about computer models and hypothetical projections, but what science knows is happening right now. There are things to photograph that are relevant in every community of every size and shape all across the country. There's an endless number of opportunities for creative exploration.
Wonderful. I think that's excellent advice. And you sort of touched on it before, all of you, but for the people who do want to give back, if they want to give back to the organizations, maybe they want to get involved with what you are doing, what would you suggest? Whoever would like to take it first. If they want to get involved with your organization and give you a call or something similar.
Let me jump in, if I will, Tony. I think many organizations, many nonprofits, like our foundation, live on donations, live on people stepping forward, coming from their heart and helping. I, at one point, worked for an organization called Médecins Sans Frontières, and then an American organization called the International Medical Corps. And they did remarkable things around the world, medically, in many war zones and natural disasters. But what they didn't have was photography. They didn't have a budget for photography. So I'm going to speak in general. I would say most nonprofits, most organizations that are doing really, really good work are living on the edge. And so they need all the help they can get. And photography is a powerful component for their fundraising efforts, for their newsletters, for their poster programs, for their report to their board of directors. So every organization needs photography, and photography is powerful, powerful, powerful. So I have found that for the nonprofits that I have worked with over the years, they are very happy when I approach them, I show them my work, and I plead with them with great passion that I want to help them, that it becomes a symbiotic relationship. They need me as I need them to produce the body of work. So I think prepare yourself. Do not go in with a portfolio of fashion photographs that have nothing to do with their subject matter. You've got to align your efforts and your portfolio with what they do. So start on a small little project in your community, build up a strong portfolio, and then go to the Red Cross or then go to the hospital. And I think you will be surprised how quickly you can come into an alignment with an organization that you're passionate about, and they're deeply appreciative of the photography that you can provide.
And work at a very, very local level. It doesn't have to be International Red Cross. It can be, you know, Community Way down the street.
Do you guys hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. I would also say think beyond what the actual mission is that you're on and figure out ways to sort of cross-promote or connect the things that you're doing. So shooting rock and roll concerts and working with drummers, basically saying, I'll work with you guys, but you got to make a donation to the Ronald McDonald House. Or I shot pictures for Little League once, and I made the Little League president make a donation to the house. So I'm blessed enough to have a great job at a great company, and I get paid every 2 weeks. I've been very blessed during this pandemic. So to have these opportunities to take the pictures and have someone else make the donation based on the work you do is another avenue outside of what you think this is all about or what your mission is about.
Right. The last question for all of you, who or what inspires each of you now? Who wants to start?
I get a buzz from music as much as anything else. And it just kind of fertilizes the nerve endings in my brain. I also get a great deal of buzz from reading good writing. I tend not to read much fiction, very little fiction, in fact. And most nonfiction writers are kind of dry. But when you hit the really good ones, like Winston Churchill, who was an absolutely unbelievable writer, it's quite inspiring. And then, of course, there's great films, and there's an awful lot of crappy films, but, you know, we all have a pretty good understanding of where the good films are, and in all these different art forms, It helps to fertilize your nerve endings, your brain, your soul, your mind, everything, by watching the good stuff. Don't waste your time on the trash, because the trash then clutters the mental works. But if you stay focused on the good things, it's amazing how much it helps to fertilize your own capacities.
Alicia?
So tonight we had class from 4 to 6. And my husband is one of the teachers, and he was sitting at his desk, and there's a screen of like 20 kids sitting there, and they just got their cameras this week, and so they were all, you could see them in the Zoom, and they were all like looking and trying to figure out all the buttons and dials, because it's the first time they've ever held a DSLR. And he had I don't know, some kind of cord attached to his camera so that they could see the monitor. You all probably know what that is, but see the monitor on the back of his camera screen, and they were going through all the buttons and dials, and I just, like, it just made me so happy. So
Wonderful. Mike?
Well, I look at all the people we have here, and those of you tuning in. The people around me inspire me every day. You know, I get to work with guys like Jim and Alicia, and Chris and I have worked together, and so all the photographers around me. I think what inspires me the most, though, are the families I've worked with and the experiences that I've had. Whether you've learned something really hard to deal with, it moves you forward. But I'm going to mention one gentleman who is a man that I love and adore and inspires me the most in this world. His name is John H. White. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist from Chicago. And when I get into these tough times where I say to him, do I pray for life? Do I pray for death? He puts a perspective on it that says, just pray for God's plan. And when I say I'm angry, he said, good, the angrier you are, the more love you have. And I can't stop crying. And he says, you know, tears like raindrops create rainbows. And when you have people like that constantly throwing positive at you and putting positive light on every negative thing that can happen, and then you look at these kids in the eyes and you look at their parents, it puts everything in perspective. They inspire me every day.
Thank you. Chris?
Well, I think many things, but certainly I come down to two very crucial things in my life is taking a walk in nature. I think nature continues to inspire. I think it's so important for all of us to just close that computer, put off the phone, and take a walk in nature. And I was with my son last week, and we went hiking and had remarkable conversations that would have never happened unless we were out among the fall leaves of New England. And so I'm inspired by the next generation, by his generation, and the potential that they have to look after this planet and to preserve nature, because that's the thread that's going to allow us to survive beyond the 21st century.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you, all of you. All right. And now it's time to start wrapping up the program. I'd like to introduce Michelle Tramontano. Michelle has been an integral part of the Imaging Alliance for over 10 years. As program director, she has spearheaded all of the Alliance's outreach and philanthropic programs, including Portraits of Love, Your Image, Your Voice, as well as many award programs from New York to Las Vegas. Michelle is the architect of tonight's event, which was originally supposed to be in front of a live audience. But true to form, she transformed tonight into an incredible virtual event that we will all remember for a long time. This is her baby, and she did an incredible job. And she did this all with a smile on her face. Congratulations, Michelle, for this wonderful event. Please welcome the program director for the Imaging Alliance, Michelle Tramontano.
Thank you, Tony, for that lovely introduction and for being here with us tonight. I wish we could squeeze in tight for one of your famous selfies, but sharing the screen will just have to do. I hope all of you who tuned in enjoyed tonight's very inspiring and passionate presentations. One of my favorite parts of this event is when the nominations start coming in, and I, along with the board members, get to discover and learn all about so many amazing photojournalists out there who are doing such incredible things with their talents. I truly believe that if you make your passion your life's work, you will no doubt be successful. Clearly, our honorees have followed their heart's passions, and they have made such an impact doing so. I'm so proud to be here tonight and to have this opportunity to shine a light on such incredible individuals who are an amazing example of how we can all give back and make a difference by doing what we love. So Chris, James, Alicia, and Mike, thank you for your dedication and for all of your contributions. You've made tonight memorable for me and all of us. Tonight's program would not be possible if not for the generous contributions of our sponsors. First, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Matador Media, for their support in this very important program. We'd also like to thank our platinum sponsors, Nikon and Sony, our gold sponsors, Sigma, Digital Imaging Recorder, and Blue Pixel, and our silver sponsor, Tamron. A special thanks to the team at Blue Pixel, especially Courtney Warren, who made herself available for me and all of us whenever we seemed to need her. It was an absolute pleasure to work with you, Courtney, and to everybody on your team. Thanks for making this so easy for each of us. And finally, an incredibly special thank you to my dear friend Jerry Grossman and to all of the Imaging Alliance Board of Directors, who I've been so privileged to work with and get to know and learn from. I miss being with each of you at our meetings and our events. This pandemic continues to impact our lives, our businesses, and our nation in ways none of us could have ever imagined. The passion that each of you have for photography and for the future of our industry makes events and programs like this possible. We hope that this evening's program has inspired all of you and that you take your talents and your passions to overcome challenges, to find great opportunities, to give back to something or someone who needs it. I wish you all and your loved ones health and safety. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.